The general had not taken a single step in 15 long years, until a newly arrived soldier dared to do the unthinkable. "Private Carter, step aside. He doesn't need assistance." But Nyla didn't move. Kneeling firmly on the grass, she gripped the straps of the general's leg brace with a steady hand. Calm, unshaken, determined. Around them, training came to a halt. Soldiers froze mid-drill, whispering to each other, unsure if they were witnessing courage or foolishness. General Alan Strickland, his hair silvered with age and his expression carved from stone, sat rigid in his wheelchair. His navy dress uniform was pressed to perfection, his hands resting flat on his thighs. Everyone knew his story. 15 years earlier, a roadside strike had left his convoy in ruins. Medics had fought to save his life, but the damage to his spine was irreversible, or so they said. The wheelchair became his command post, his prison, and his identity. But Nyla Carter, a new face on the base, saw him differently. She didn't treat him as a legend or a symbol. She saw him as a man. "I reviewed your medical records," she said in a low, deliberate tone as she adjusted the brace. "Your scans, your surgeries, the scar tissue. You had no clearance to do that," Strickland answered, his voice like steel. "I had reason," she replied without flinching. The crowd shifted uneasily. She was young, barely in her 20s, her uniform still stiff from issue, boots barely broken in. No stripes, no seniority, just eyes that never wavered. "You think I haven't been treated by the best doctors?" the general asked, narrowing his gaze. "Sir," she said evenly, "sometimes even the best stop believing." His jaw tightened. "You're out of line, soldier." But she didn't let go of the brace. "With respect, sir, you still have measurable muscle activity. Minimal, yes, but enough to mean your nervous pathways aren't dead. Weak, but alive." The words landed heavier than she knew. No doctor had spoken of recovery in over a decade. Most had learned to manage his pain, not his hope. Yet here she was, daring to say what no one else had. There was still a chance. "You've built a life around the chair," she continued. "You've commanded, inspired, and carried the weight of leadership from it. But that doesn't mean you've reached the limit of what your body can do." A silence settled over the field. Training continued in the distance, but here all eyes were on the general. His jaw worked, his fingers curling slightly against his legs. "You think I haven't tried?" he asked, voice low. "I think you haven't tried again," Nyla said softly. "Not since someone told you hope was a waste of time. But that someone wasn't me." He searched her face, steady and unshaken. "You presume too much for a private." She rose slowly, not in defiance, but in conviction. "Before I enlisted, I was a neuro-rehab specialist. I've seen movement return where none was expected. I've seen spines surprise the people who doubted them." "And you think mine will obey you?" he asked dryly. "I think your body is waiting for permission," she said. There was no arrogance in her voice, no showmanship. Just a quiet truth that cut deeper than anything he had heard since his injury. He wanted to dismiss her, to laugh her off, but her conviction stopped him. For the first time in years, he felt the buried desire not to walk for the world's sake, but for his own. Nyla gestured toward the training hall, static stand therapy. "Just 30 seconds a day, holding weight on your legs. That's all I ask. We'll see where it goes." He looked away, his voice tightening. "Do you know what it feels like to collapse in front of the very soldiers who once saluted you?" "I know what it feels like to be dismissed before you even begin," she said gently. Her words cut through the years of silence. "Give me 30 days, she pressed. "If I fail, you'll never hear from me again." For a long moment, Strickland said nothing. His instincts screamed to protect the last fragments of his pride. But something inside him shifted. The entire field waited for his answer, breath held. He didn't speak. He only gave a single, deliberate nod. When Private Nyla Carter finally picked up her bag and walked away that first day, the others thought it was over. But for General Alan Strickland, that simple nod he had given her was more than agreement. It was the first real step he had taken in 15 years. The very next morning, just after dawn, the doors of the rehabilitation wing creaked open. Soldiers rarely ventured there anymore. The equipment had collected dust like old memories since the day Strickland's accident ended his mobility. Yet there he was, rolling in with quiet resolve. No one had been expecting him. No one except Nyla. She was already waiting, sleeves rolled up, equipment cleaned, and the parallel bars shining as if they had been prepared for a ceremony. A neat stack of braces rested nearby, warm from the heater she had set up. Her focus was unshaken, her expression calm. She didn't salute him. He had told her not to waste formalities in that space. Instead, she simply said, "Braces are ready." Today we aim for 30 seconds. Nothing more." The general didn't reply. He locked his chair into place, expression unreadable. Nyla stepped forward and secured the braces around his thighs and calves with precise, practiced movements. Her tone wasn't coddling or commanding, just steady. "Tell me if anything feels wrong." "It already does," he muttered dryly, but he allowed her to help him. With her arm braced against his back and his hands gripping the cold steel bars, Strickland shifted forward. Nyla stayed close, shoulder to shoulder, her presence more like a wall than a support. "Now just let your legs carry the weight," she whispered. His arms trembled almost immediately. Pain shot through his body, visible only in the flicker of his eyes. Still, he held on. Nyla didn't cheer him on loudly or count seconds for the others to hear. She simply breathed with him, steady, anchoring him through the silence. 20 seconds passed, then 30. When he finally collapsed back into the chair, sweat rolled down his temples. Not from the exertion itself, but from the flood of emotions, fear, shame, anger, and something buried even deeper, hope. Nyla knelt in front of him and removed the braces gently. "You stood," she said softly. He shook his head. "I didn't move." "You bore your own weight," she answered firmly. "That means your body remembered." From that day forward, the two of them met each morning. Some days were punishing. Nights of little sleep left him exhausted, and there were mornings when the pain spiked so badly he cursed under his breath. But Nyla never scolded him or offered false comfort. She simply handed him a towel, adjusted the straps, and said, "Let's try again." Progress was slow but undeniable. 30 seconds became a full minute. 1 minute stretched into 2. By the third week, the tremors in his hands began to fade. He could shift his weight more naturally. On the 21st day, Nyla stood back just far enough to test him, and to her quiet satisfaction, he stabilized without her touch. That night, Strickland stared at himself in the mirror. His body was leaner, his shoulders more defined. But what startled him most wasn't the change in his muscles, it was the change in his eyes. There was fire there again. Not pride, not vanity, but life. By the 4th week, seconds no longer mattered. They began counting steps. 2 steps, clumsy and awkward at first, then 4. 6 followed. And one morning, Nyla entered the gym to find him already strapped into the braces, standing tall at the parallel bars. She blinked in surprise. He lifted his chin and said, "You're late, Private." She smirked faintly. "I've been here, just watching." That day, he took 10 full steps. Word spread quickly across the base. Soldiers who once glanced indifferently at the gym now stopped mid-workout to watch. Some clapped quietly. Others whispered his name with a new kind of reverence. The general who had once commanded from his chair was rising again, not through speeches or medals, but through sheer will. By the end of the month, they held a small gathering on the same field where Nyla had first defied protocol. The soldiers thought it was a standard ceremony, another promotion or award. Instead, they watched in silence as General Strickland wheeled forward, locked his chair, and with visible effort stood. No bars, no cords, just his cane in one hand and Nyla's steady presence at his side. He took a step forward, turned toward the rows of soldiers, and raised his hand in salute. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence was heavier than any command. Then it broke. Cheers erupted across the field, louder than graduation ceremonies, louder than parades. Some soldiers wiped their eyes. Others chanted his name. But Strickland looked at only one person, Nyla Carter. He walked toward her, shaky but determined, and handed her his cane. "You didn't just help me stand," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You reminded me who I was before the chair." She shook her head gently. "You were always still there, sir. You just needed permission to believe it again." From inside his jacket, Strickland pulled out a small medal. "Most civilians won't know this one," he said quietly. "It's given to those who restore what was thought to be lost." He pinned it onto her chest. "Not my body," he added, voice breaking, "but my will." Nyla swallowed hard, holding back tears, but her voice remained strong. "I never came here to fix you, sir. I came to remind you you weren't finished yet." On that field, in front of every soldier, 2 figures stood taller than rank or uniform. A general and a private, a commander and a believer. And behind them, the entire unit stood straighter, prouder, because they had witnessed not just a man walking again, but a man choosing to live again.